All right, what's going on, everyone? Sean Griffin here. I'm joined today by Miguel Garrido, who is one of KT's longest standing members. Miguel, how are you doing today, bud?
All right. Excited to be here.
Yes. Oh, do I hear a little nerves in the voice there? No, not this guy. Not this guy. Miguel, you've been sporting such a great mustache recently, but you've let your beard grow in. I was honestly hoping that it would be mustache on mustache today, but
No, I let it grow out. I haven't been shaved in like 2 weeks, so the everything has kind of blended in.
nice, man. Did you train today already?
I trained early this morning,
Okay.
and I also got my 5K in as well. So
Love it. Got to start the Monday off right. Very well done. Good. Okay, so Miguel, first off, let's get the basic information. Where do you live? What do you do for work? Tell me a little bit about yourself.
I'm in New York and the Westchester area. I'm in IT, so I spend a lot of my day sitting down, either programming or in meetings, and that means that I don't really walk around a lot unless I make a point to go out and get my steps in, right? So that's part of what I've done the last couple of years that I've been in KT. Just make it a point to go out and be active, because on my day to day I'm typically not very active. Dad, and obviously that's another reason why being active is very important, because you want to make sure that you're there and you're able to keep up and set a good example.
Yeah. How old are your kid or kids?
I have a 9-year-old girl.
9 year old daughter. Okay, nice. Is that fourth grade, third grade, fourth grade? Fourth grade. Oh my goodness. Maddie's in kindergarten. I can't imagine fourth grade. It sounds daunting. So Miguel,
It gets
that's what they tell me. Let's talk about you, okay? Let's talk about today. I want to hear about your journey before KT, where your health and fitness was at. I definitely want to hear about your journey coming into KT and the type of results you've achieved. I think we got some really fun stuff to go over with your Spartan racing and just how you've been able to overcome maybe some roadblocks in KT. So we'll get into all that. But can we just start by help me understand, like, how long have you been in KT? When did you join? And before you joined KT, what was your health and fitness like at that time?
So I joined KT in August of 2022, I believe. So I've been around for a little over 2 years now. And, prior to joining KT, I was playing around with my weight. I would gain weight, lose weight. I wasn't very consistent. I wasn't really strong, right? So I think I've mentioned it before. I can call myself like skinny fat, the sense that I wasn't really heavy, but was just fat loss. I didn't really have muscle, and therefore I wasn't really functionally strong.
What was your workout routine like? Were you exercising consistently prior to joining?
I would exercise in bursts. So part of why I got into Spartan racing was for accountability. I figure if I commit to a race, I'm gonna go through a hard time if I'm not in shape by the time the race comes around. So I found myself working out inconsistently, but still getting some workouts in, primarily cardio and some upper body for the obstacles. But I mean, it wasn't structured by any means.
Okay. Were you going to the gym or were you doing cardio at home or what did that look like for you?
Primarily at home. I tried the gym thing and it just wasn't for me. I didn't really like having to leave my house to go and do something on a set schedule. My schedules are not always consistent. Sometimes I'm in the office 16 hours, and other times I'm in the office 9 hours, right? So it just wasn't very conducive for me to go out and hit a gym up at any point in my day.
Okay. And what was your kettlebell experience like? Were you doing kettlebells at the time or was that something that was brand
I
new when
was
you joined
doing
KT?
Yeah, no, I was doing kettlebells, but primarily swings, not very well. And I was swinging a 16 kilogram bell, which is a 36 pounder, and I found that to be heavy. And I was like, wow, I'm a badass. I'm swinging I'm swinging 35 pounds. But yeah, was I wrong? I mean, I remember the first, like one of the first calls we had. when you looked over my technique, and I kind of realized I've not been doing this right, you know.
We'll get to results and everything, but I have to ask you right now, how does it feel to think about the fact that you used to think a 35-pound kettlebell was heavy? Like, what? How does that make you feel? It makes me
I
laugh.
mean, I wasn't super strong. Now I'm swinging around 106-pound kettlebell, so it's I don't know. It feels a little surreal. I will say though that when every time I leveled up to a new kettlebell and I picked it up for the first time, I was like, how am I going to swing this? You know, and little by little, it just happened, and it was became easy. You know.
Love that. Yeah, that's great, man. So many of the guys that we talk to, I think we're in a very similar position as you. They probably hadn't done Turkish get ups. Maybe they'd seen them, maybe they'd done them, but really Turkish get up tends to be something that guys, when they join our program, they really haven't done it. Swings, on the other hand, typically there's been some exposure. It's pretty rare that we'll get someone who's never done a kettlebell swing ever in their life, but almost always they're doing 25 to 35-pound weight, and their technique is not great. They just haven't been taught the right way to do it. And so I think it's funny to think about you, because now anytime I see you doing swings, it's heavy and your technique is really good. But to think about the fact that only 2 years ago you were swinging a 35-pound bell, and like, the technique was shaky, maybe even call it unsafe at the time. It's wild, man. You chipped away slowly, like you said.
That is one thing about the lighter weights that I've noticed. I mean, just they're light enough that you can be dangerous with them, right? Because you don't know that you're potentially twist away from injury, because you can just kind of muscle through it. Like I've seen someone who is strong, like with barbells, for example, attempt a get up with like a 32 kg bell, and sure they can do it, but like I cringe because it's very unsafe the way it's literally just powering through it, and that's I don't know. It gives me nightmares.
Right. So talk to me about the point that you got to where you made the decision to seek out kettlebell transformation. Where were you at? What was going on at the time? Was there like a specific thing that happened in your life, or, what brought you to us?
It was a mix of things, as I mentioned. Spartan racing was kind of a way for me to seek accountability. At the end of the day, I remember the kickoff call with Grant. I was after lasting change and accountability. I as I said, I'd been doing some workouts without really having a structure associated with it. I've done some dieting before. I felt like on the dieting side of things, I could get to where I wanted to be, but it was hard to stay there. I think the lack of muscle and strength was a contributing factor, but I didn't know that at the time. It was more along the lines of I kind of want to be consistent, and I want a way where I don't have to figure something out that I've not done before, and I want to fall off, you know.
Hmm. So the accountability was important for you at the time, and and really learning how to do it the right way, it sounds like, was something that was important for you as well.
Yeah, I was mostly after the accountability, strength as well, but like as I think about it more, accountability was my number one.
Yeah. And was that just because you felt like you had tried to do it on your own and just couldn't get it to stick? And like, why do you feel like accountability was the number one thing that you were looking for?
And I didn't really have established habits at the time, right? So to me, it was like, how do I stay focused? How do I come back? How do I not get bored? Also, I don't really know whether what I'm doing is going to work, right? So
Mm.
having that feedback and having someone paying attention, I thought was going to be very helpful.
Mm.
I thought that was only a piece of the puzzle, but reality is that was what made me take the first step.
Yeah. Cool. I like that. It's a good way of thinking about it, right? It's like, I don't know if what I'm going to do is going to be correct. And also all the different tweaks that I'm probably going to have to make along the way to actually acquiring this skill and the habit set. Because as you mentioned, like, you didn't have established habits at the time. That's cool, man. Well, I'll say I'm glad you sought us out because obviously we've worked together. I've been coaching you through the system now for 2 years, and your results have really been astonishing, honestly. But talk to me about when you first joined KT. So you make the decision, you make the investment, you start the program. How are you feeling? Can you take yourself back to that time where you just first started with us? Like, how were you feeling, and what was your experience like?
Yeah, I remember going through the onboarding, looking at the videos, bought all the equipment, and again, I had my 35-pound bell, which I'm like, all right, I'm gonna see how I'm gonna do this with a 35-pound bell. I've never done a get up before, so I don't know. I was super excited. I remember I injured myself like day two, but very excited up until that point. And a day or two after I got injured, I remember we got on the phone, Zoom actually, and tweaked my program so that I could still get work done, even though I was going through the injury. And that to me was eye opening, right? Because I never really gotten injured to that point. I've been active before, but I hadn't really put up weight in, again, 35 pounds to me was a heavy kettlebell. Hadn't really put up weight. I wasn't really doing super complex movements. When it came time to do a get up, which was an easy movement by any stretch, I don't know exactly how I got injured, but I know that my intercostal was in pain, and able to continue being productive, getting steps in, dialing in my nutrition, just helped me stay in that positive mindset. It's like it clicked for me. It was one of those, you're injured, but that's not an excuse for you to not go out and continue making progress and keeping that forward momentum going.
Man, I think we got to hit on that for just a second because that right there, I think for a lot of people derails them from sticking to their commitments. They get injured right at the start. That's a serious roadblock. And I could have seen that. In fact, I can recall that time being like, shit, Miguel is probably going to drop out of the program. Like, he got injured right away. I mean, that's the worst case scenario for a guy. But you just took it in stride. You were just like, no, it's cool. There's these other levers that I'm going to pull, and I'm going to let my body heal. And like you said, we made some adjustments. We worked to make sure that you could still do something. But what is it about you, or what was it about your mindset that allowed you to just say, it's okay, I'm not going to freak out, I'm going to play this long game? Like, dude, you were playing the long game from day two, but like, usually that's something that happens over time for guys. So what do you think is what was the difference maker for you? Can you pinpoint anything?
I don't know. Like, I committed. It was not just about, like, I don't know. Honestly, I've tried to think back to that, and there was no one thing. It was more along the lines of, I'm going to do this. This is not something that I have. I didn't walk into KT with doubts. Like, I took the leap, and I was like, I'm going to put the work in. I'm gonna make the best of this commitment, and just a little obstacle. I have this little coin that reads, "The obstacle is the way." It's like one of Ryan Holiday's like coins. He has a few of them. And to me, it was just the embodiment of that. I had a little obstacle. I just had to walk over it or push through
Man,
it.
love that. Did you have that coin prior to joining KT?
I did.
Huge.
Just prior to joining KT, I got it because, again, it's for me.
Perfect.
It was more. It was more of, you just got to look at things head on and take them as they come.
Yeah, that's great, man. That's such a huge, that coin, who knows if that was the saving grace. But, and of course, I love that book by Ryan Holiday, the Obstacles Away. What a great book on stoicism. But man, it's true, right? Because that obstacle for you was immediate. It was right after you had made this commitment in your mind, but you still did not have any of the habits. I mean, your habits were not even close to being formed at that point. When you say you got injured right away, like, it was first week of us working together, of you
It
joining the
was like, I
program.
think it was my second workout.
Yeah, right. And so, like, for anyone listening to this, if you're a new client for KT, or if you're thinking about becoming one, Miguel was able to come in, like you said, come into KT knowing that you were going all in. you were committed before you came in. It wasn't like, let's see if this is going to work for me. This was like, I'm going to commit to this process. And I understand that there's probably going to be some shit that comes up that might throw me off, but I'm not going to let it. I'm going to find a way through. And that's, man, I mean, I think there's a big reason that you have gone on to do, how many workouts have you done in KT now? Maybe 350. Didn't we just recently post your 300?
Probably close to 360 now. And
Yeah.
mind you, that's because I've been traveling, and when I travel, that's another little hack. I know that we are gonna probably touch on this later, but when I travel, one of the things I look at is where can I get my workouts in. I've gone to conferences in Vegas. I found this nice gym, a CrossFit, that has kettlebells that are heavy enough, and trust me, it's very hard to find gyms with heavy kettlebells.
Yeah.
I
Right.
have I bought and shipped kettlebells to my vacation home in the Caribbean, so I have my bells there. And when I go to Europe, I actually at one point I bought a 32 kg for a couple of weeks in Europe, and then I sold it just because I was going to be traveling. I was going to be traveling through Europe,
Love it,
and I wanted to travel with my kettlebell.
man.
I try to remove the obstacles, make it easy for me to be consistent. But when I'm traveling, I don't always log my workouts. However, I still do something.
Yeah. Yeah. And you actually didn't, I mean, you recently were out for at least a handful of weeks with a back injury, right? If I'm not mistaken. I mean, how long were you out this most recent time?
Earlier this summer, I was out for probably, I don't know, a month and a half, maybe 2 months, where I was feeling the back pain. And what I ended up doing is obviously I had to take a couple of weeks off, no training. But once I was able to start training again, I just went light. I started, and for a while, I was just doing 32 kg, which, by the way, 32 kg is my light bill at the moment. I smile at myself
Beast
just
mode.
saying that. But yeah, for a while, I was just doing 32 kg workouts, probably for like 2, 3 weeks, until I slowly started incorporating the 40 kg bell as well.
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting, right? To have that injury happen very early in the program, but it's not like your journey to 360 workouts has been pain free either. I mean, you've had, I remember a few times you've had some shoulder issues. I think the rib might have flared a couple times or at least once more. And obviously this longer back issue where you actually went to physical therapy. And I think like that to me, that like, that's probably unavoidable for the most part, I think, for guys. Do you feel like your attitude has changed at all from that original Miguel early on who was like, I'm going to fight through this? I mean, how do you deal with those setbacks?
Much in the same way. The only difference is that now I don't really think about, well, I'm worried about this, or I'm worried about not being strong enough when I come back, because I've already been through it, and I know that bells are going to be there. I'm gonna get my workout in, and mind you, I feel a noticeable difference when I've not worked out for a couple days, and when I get my workout in, just I feel, I don't know, can't even think of the word. It's like I'm in a better mood. I feel rejuvenated, I guess. Like it's a different feeling that you get from working out. So I try to focus on the other levers though. Like I get in more steps. Nutrition is a big pain point for me, right? Much in the sense that um, I want to stay very strict, but at the same time, there are times when you are, especially when you're injured, you can't be as strict. So you kind of have to be laxer with your calories to help promote the recovery. That's probably the only place where I have to keep a little extra attention. But all my other habits are set in. So it's more along the lines of what can I do to stay active, where I'm not hurting myself further, and counting on the days until I can start training again. And I start, and then I quickly work my way back to my typical working bells.
Yeah, that's huge, man. I mean, isn't that so nice to know that injuries are going to happen, but usually time is all that is necessary. Like nothing is as catastrophic as it feels maybe right when you injure yourself and you can't train with bells. But that's a discovery that you have to make after a long time of doing it and then getting injured and getting through it. Uh, that in itself, I feel like, is a skill that can only be learned through experience that you've acquired in the last 2 years.
I think so. And at the same time, I think a fear, because I've heard it before and I know I felt it a little bit, is Like, am I going to come back and be much weaker? Am I going to completely fall off? I find that, at least for me, when I'm not training, looking at the community, looking at everyone getting their workouts in, just kind of fires me up. And I have to have the right mindset about it, right? Because you can't really feel FOMO. But when you are looking at everyone else getting their workouts in, it just kind of reminds you of the fact that everyone else is doing what they have to do. And as far as for me, when I can't work out, it's not because I don't want to; it's because I physically can't. So I'm super excited to get back to it as soon as I can.
Yeah, that's great, man. I love leaning on the community side of things. And I've heard from more than one person that when they are injured and they can't train and they're seeing everyone else do it, or for instance, if other people ahead of them are posting heavier get ups, like that can be something that bothers people and that is a negative experience for them. But what you just relayed was like that's something that keeps me in the game, being able to watch, the guys in the community executing. And it's not something where I feel FOMO. It's more like, awesome. I'm almost staying accountable to the thing, right? To the system. So that's great, man. That attitude, I feel like is really, it says a lot about the type of guy. Have you always been that way? I mean, have you always had this just like, dude, I'm going to stick to shit. I'm going to see my commitments through. Is that just the Miguel way?
For the most part, I can be stubborn. I set my mind to something, I'm usually going to see it, even if I decide later on that that was a mistake. But yeah, I guess I'm not someone who likes to leave things halfway through. So
I like it, man. Well, let's talk about some results and your experience going through KT. I mean, talk to me about the type of results that you've achieved and give me some specifics around, let's say, body composition, strength gains, but also talk about some of the results you've experienced that maybe aren't as, statistically measurable.
okay, so I lost about 30 some odd pounds since I started KT. And if I were to think back when I was skinny fat, I'm going to continue using that term. I can probably equate that to losing maybe 40 or 45 pounds, because while I've lost this weight, I've also gained muscle. And as far as body composition goes, my pant size went down a couple of sizes on my waist. But I really noticed something. Like, I had this blazer that I bought many years ago, and when I was probably 165, a lot of muscle. The blazer it didn't fit as well as it fits now, and I'm 10 pounds heavier and a bit more muscular. It's hard to kind of explain. I mean, obviously everyone's body changes differently, but I want to say that that's one of those things that isn't really measurable. I don't even know how to explain it, other than it fits better now than it did when I weighed less. And we're talking about, like, not just the waist. We're talking about like the shoulders. And I don't know exactly. That was one of the blazers that I was thinking about potentially selling or getting rid of. It's a pretty good blazer, but it's amazing that paying more is having a different body composition from having the muscle. You see little things like that. Functional strength, much stronger. Spartan racing is a great example of this, right? Like, I would train prior to a race before I started KT, and I do okay on the races. There were still some obstacles that I couldn't do just because I didn't have the stamina or the upper body strength. Post KT, I almost every race that I run now, I'm able to do every single obstacle. In a couple of the races, these were like PR obstacles for me, things that I'd not been able to do for years.
Yes.
And no, trust me, it's super exciting when I'm doing an obstacle that's not an easy obstacle, and I'm exhausted halfway through a race or almost done, and I'm like, well, this was not as hard as I thought it was going to be,
Yeah.
Which happens to me on two different obstacles. I did trifecta weekend last year, and I had clean races for the most part. A clean race is where you do every single obstacle. Most importantly, after 3 days of racing, we're talking probably the equivalent of like a marathon and about 1,000 obstacles over 2 days.
Jeez.
Felt Yeah, I felt like I could potentially do one or two more races the following day, and that's something that 2018, sorry, in 2019, I did a trifecta weekend, and I couldn't really walk without pain for a couple days. So it's night and day the difference. I'm most excited about the fact that like I have the stamina, I have the upper body strength, and it's not hasn't been me training that specifically. It's been a byproduct of my typical day-to-day kettlebell training.
Mm. That's really cool, right? That's, I think, the part that is important for everyone to understand, because in the kettlebell world, we talk about the what the hell effect, which is when you train with kettlebells, you get massive carryover to the other physical endeavors that you have in your life. And so you mentioned, you weren't even training specifically. It's not like you're going out and doing the obstacles from your Spartan racing to train, but because of the kettlebell training, you are now able to do obstacles that you couldn't before. What are a couple of the obstacles? You mentioned that there were like two specifically that were PR obstacles for you. What were they? Can you describe them?
Yeah. So first one is called the Olympus wall, and it's this slippery wall that has has holes and chains and like these rock climbing holes. Now the main thing is when you get on it. By the way, the obstacles may be like 12 feet long, and you have to effectively climb your way across without touching the ground. And when you're exhausted because you've been running for, I don't know, like 5, 6 miles, doing other upper body obstacles, it just becomes hard to do. And that's
Yeah.
meant to be one of those killer obstacles. There's this other one that's called the twister, which is it's like monkey bars, but you hold on and the handholds kind of like go a fan, so you hold on and it moves on you. So you kind of have to have good grip strength, otherwise it's hard. It's easy to fall off. Those were two of the obstacles that were very difficult for me before. The Olympus wall was one that I never completed up until a few months ago. Right? Typically they put it later in the races when your arms are kind of already shot. Just to add
Thanks.
some sweet.
Thanks, Spartan.
Yeah, they test you mentally and physically. A lot of the times, 15-mile race is really like 16 miles, just because. I mean, they can lie on distances. Why not?
Yeah.
They call it the Spartan Mile. There's been a few others that were also kind of difficult, primarily just upper body obstacles. They're simple ones, like for example, a 10-foot wall. You kind of have to muscle up and jump over it, right? So that's another one that I had a little bit of issue with. But it's if you can do 10 pull-ups, you should be able to do that, right? And again, doing kettlebell training, doing the farmer's carries, etc. It's kind of strengthened me enough where I can easily jump and carry myself over a 10-foot wall again towards the end of the race or just after coming up side of a mountain, because I live in the East Coast and most of the Spartan races are on ski resorts here. So you're already kind of dead from the waist down, and just having to do all these upper body obstacles is just kind of some icing on top
Love
of
it.
what the Spartan planners.
Yeah. So, I mean, how do you summarize? How do you feel about getting, making a commitment, dialing things in with kettlebells, committing to the nutrition, and now seeing this very direct carryover to performance in the Spartan races?
I mean, it's amazing. It's from the KT perspective, it's one of the best decisions I've ever made, and not just because I'm seeing all these results, but because I like my identity has shifted. We talk about this often, right? For me, it's like I'm a new person, right? Like I'm an example. More than one occasion, I've had people come to me and say, "Well, today I my sister I did my workout and I thought like, what would Miguel do?" So that to me is very strong because I'm leading by example and helping people that are very close to me be consistent in their own health goals.
Love that, man. That's something I always try to. We always preach that to the guys in our program, right? Your decisions, your habit, what you do on a daily basis, it carries over. It spreads out to your network. People see you taking care of yourself, and they start to get they see that they get motivated by that, and that's great, man. It's really powerful stuff. Good work. You're welcome, buddy. I mean that. Okay, so I'm just checking my questions here because I don't want to miss anything. Let's do a quick rapid fire, and then we can dig into anything else that we feel like we might have missed. But I have a rapid fire set up that I'd love to ask you about, and we'll just get some quick answers from you. Okay? If you could only do one kettlebell exercise the rest of your life, which would it be?
Get up.
Why the get up?
Get up is just, in my opinion, the perfect complex exercise. Like you're working more or less your entire body with the get up.
Love it. What's your PR get up?
48 kg.
48 kg,
6 pounds.
106 pounds. So you went from never doing a Turkish get up before you joined KT to now doing 48 kg get ups.
Yeah, it's it's honestly one of my favorite things to think about as I look back on my journey.
Yeah. Elaborate on that a little bit. Like obviously we've talked about the Spartan performance improvements. You just kind of touched on influencing your sister. Why do you feel like thinking about that gain in strength of the get up? Why is that something that you really enjoy?
I don't know, because it's a benchmark. I think I read somewhere that like 2 kg get up is insanely difficult for most of the population, and 48 kg is like, I think maybe you said it, like 1 or 2% of the population can do that weight. And just knowing that I'm part of a small club of people, it just makes it a bit special, right? Besides that, from a personal perspective, it's a heavy weight. It's a highly technical exercise. It requires skill. It's not something that anyone can just power through. So just thinking back on it, it's more the journey that I went on to get to that point. To me, it was very fulfilling because it means sweat, it means effort. It was something that I was looking forward to for a very long time, and now that I have it, I just want to make it my own. I want to continue to own it, and just have it be something where it's like, yeah, I can do that. And I'm going to try and continue to do that for as long as I can.
Yeah, I love that. Did you come into KT with the idea that you were going to progress to a 48 kilogram get up and that was going to be this big benchmark achievement in your head?
Oh, I'd never done a get up before KT, right? So I'd seen them. I had no idea how to do them. It didn't really become a goal until after I did the 24 kg, and I thought, man, it'd be really cool to be able to do double this weight. And then slowly but surely, I worked my way there, and every bell that was heavier that I was able to get overhead got me a step closer. And I don't know. I find it's good to have goals, and it's good to always have the next thing in your sights.
Yeah. That's cool, man. I love that. I mean, it's our secret mission to help as many men as possible fall in love with Turkish get-ups. That's like that. That's the secret mission that we don't really talk about all that much, especially like to new guys or like in our marketing, because most people are like you. They've never done them. There's no context. Like if we would have talked to you before you would have joined and we said, Miguel, the whole point of this program is to fall in love with Turkish get-ups and have that be the thing, you'd been like, okay, I guess. I mean, right? But then you start doing them and you're like, oh man, this exercise is awesome. And the sense of achievement that you talked about, that journey, I love it, man. That's really great. Next question. What's your favorite kettlebell weight and why?
It's the 40 kg because it is a bell that's light enough that I can do multiples with it. I can do multiple things with it. Swings, hand swings. I can do get-ups with it. It's heavy enough that you actually, at least with the get up, you can't take it for granted, right? So it's the bell that keeps me humble. I can do any exercise with the 32 kg that I've learned so far. I can do snatches with it. I can do get ups. I can do one hand swings, two hand swings. Can't do that with the 40. I find that the 40 is a versatile belt. 32 is probably quintessential. I once heard Grant saying that if he could have just one belt, it'd be a 32 kg. And it's possible that in the future I might share that sentiment, but right now the 40 kg is one that I wanna always have by my side.
Yeah, love that. And I know you know the nicknames for all the bells. You're one of our key nickname guys. So the 40 kg is what?
The bulldog.
The bulldog. Love it. That's great, man. Okay, so let me ask you this last rapid fire question. What's the achievement that you're most proud of in your time in KT?
Probably gonna say it's the snatch test. 5 minute snatch test. That,
I forgot
in
about
my
that.
opinion, wow. Yes, that was awesome. And I just remember you and Grant cheering me on. Snatch test, and snatches are awesome, by the way. I prefer get-ups, but snatches are probably my second favorite exercise. Being able to do 124 kg snatches back to back like that, to me was, I mean, it was amazing. It was, I think it is a very fitting kind of crowning achievement of mastery. So I personally think that that's probably the hardest thing I've done, more so than even my 48 kg, and also the one I felt the happiest about. Even though I was looking forward to the 48 kg, the fact that I was training for the snatch test, I got through it, I did it, and obviously in the time that I wanted to do it, obviously under 5 minutes. I kind of wanted to fall flat on my face after I finished it because I couldn't really move. But after I recovered, I was like, holy shit, I did this, and this is not an easy thing to do. That's got to probably be my favorite achievement in KT so far.
Love that, man. I remember, if I'm not mistaken, I think you finished in like 4:59. I mean, it was like you hit your last snatch as it was finishing, right?
I also ended up doing 101 snatches.
Watch the tape. This guy was doing extra snatches. It was a miscount. It was a
Yes,
miscount by me, I'm sure.
yeah, no, I forget why it was. Think I think I just in my mind I was going and going and going, and I don't know if you stopped counting and I just did one more because I was kind of like I was in my head the entire snatch test. But yeah, I think I did 101 snatches, and there was like 450 something for sure.
Beast.
I just made it.
Love it, man. That is indeed a huge achievement. So let me ask you this last question I have for you. Well, actually, I have two more. Second to last question. What do you feel like is the most kind of unsuspecting or like surprising benefit or outcome? Like, what did you not expect when you first started that has happened due to your time in KT?
I think the identity shift. I mean, it's one of those things that is absolutely crucial to success. But when you come into this, you don't necessarily, I mean, some people might, but I didn't come into this thinking, well, I'm going to become a new person or I'm going to have completely new habits. Even though it was the goal, I was a little skeptical about because obviously it's not something that is very easy to do. So I think the identity shift is what I would say was not expecting, but at the same time, what needed to happen for me to be successful in KT.
Love that. Now you're a kettlebell guy through and through. Miguel, last question. What would you say to a guy who is in a similar situation as you were prior to joining KT, who's maybe thinking about investing in the program, who's thinking about going on the same journey that you went on? What piece of advice would you give to them?
Yeah, I would obviously say do it. I wouldn't even think about that, but I know that it can be difficult for someone to to take a leap of faith unless it's someone that is close to the person in the program already, right? Just say, just you're not sure, but anyway, but do it knowing that you're committing to something that is going to be life changing. And demands respect, right? You have to respect your decision. You have to see it through. You have to put in the work. But if you're willing to do all these things, you're going to see the results. It's going to be that you don't regret. Like it's easily one of the best decisions I've ever made, and I'm not the only one that says this, right? Like there's got to be something to that.
Love it, man. I love it. Miguel, you've been such a great client to work with. And I'm so glad we got to meet each other in Phoenix. And I know we'll hang again and swing bells. And also, I just wanted to thank you because, you've been one of those guys who's just been in our community now for 2+ years. And you've always just been a huge participant and supporter, and cheering for the other guys. Even like you said, when you were injured, still in there giving guys props for working out. And KT just wouldn't be what it is today without you. And all the great conversations that you and I have had one-on-one, but all the just participation and support that you've given the community. So thank you.
Yeah, no, community is in my opinion, one of the pinnacles of KT, and I'm glad to be a part of it.
Love it, man. Good stuff. Well, Miguel, thank you for taking time out of your busy Monday to join us for today's live interview. And I look forward to seeing you drop your next check mark in the group, my friend.
Have a good one.
Okay, I'm
Great
going
to
to
be here.
stop this recording.